Welcome to the deep dive. You brought us some pretty intense source material today.
We have. We're looking at excerpts from Tucker Max's book, Assholes Finish First.
Okay, so our mission here, as always, is to cut through the noise, pull out the key stuff, the surprising bits.
Exactly. Give you the insights without you having to wade through, well, everything else.
And with this source, we need to be super clear up front. The stuff is raw, it's unfiltered, it's definitely designed to shock.
Oh, absolutely. Entertainment and shock value seem core to it.
So, just to reiterate for everyone listening, we're not here to endorse this stuff or judge it. We're basically acting as guides through these excerpts.
Think of it like laying out the evidence presented in the source. This is what it says happened. This is how the author framed it. That's our focus.
Got it. So let's dive in, setting the scene.
Hmm.
What's the Tucker Max persona we're dealing with in this book? What's his world?
Well, the core identity he puts forward is pretty straightforward. Heavy drinking, lots of sex, shock humor, and just zero filter.
And he's already kind of famous at this point.
Yeah, from his website and the first book, he talks about being this, niche, legit star and really soaking up the attention.
That attention included a pretty active message board.
Huge. Hundreds of fans daily. And what's interesting is his initial assumption about them, that they'd all be just like him and his close friends, which, sets up this later realization about online personas versus reality.
Ah, okay. A classic theme. And speaking of friends, he lists quite a crew.
Oh, yeah. Slingblade, Credit, Hate, JoJo, Golden Boy, Nils, Soylent, The Ginger, Sippy, PWJ, Stidey, Francis, Mark, Jeff. I mean, the list goes on.
And these aren't just background characters.
Not at all. They're deep in the mix, involved in pretty much all the stories. These friendships are central.
He also sprinkles in some self-reflection, doesn't he?
That's right.
About arrogance, money.
He does. Talks about going from being, his words, Bangladeshi slumdog poor to having cash.
Yeah.
And later these moments where he feels like he's sold out.
Sold out how?
Like by holding back an insult because he started caring what fans thought, which is kind of fascinating. And even amidst the craziest stories, you get lines like, I fuck up a lot. It's a recurring, if brief, moment of self-awareness.
Okay, let's get into the adventures, the group stuff. First up, the Duke Campout. What was that?
So this was a grad school event. He describes it as having this civilized RV area and then down this muddy hill, tent city, much less civilized.
And his main tool down there was the bullhorn.
Oh, the bullhorn, yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about this immediate, strange new power, yelling stuff like, I am the greatest man alive. Hey, I'm fucking invincible.
Wow, he really got into it.
Compares it to the One Ring or riot control. He'd challenge people, tell guys with smaller megaphones, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, motherfucker. Just pure provocation.
And his interactions with people there, the grad students.
Pretty blunt. He says he prefers sluts because, and this is a direct quote again, they're the most receptive to me putting my penis in their vagina. And he details run-ins with nerds, like the sociology nerd, quoting Plato at each other, or challenging people like, throw something at me, anything you want, and if you don't throw like a girl, I'll leave.
But the peak bullhorn moment has to be the porta potty thing.
Oh, definitely. Using this massive bullhorn to force a guy to apologize to the porta potty for taking a smelly dump.
It's just absurd.
Even he seems kind of baffled afterwards, like, did I really just do that? It sums up the whole power meets ridiculousness vibe.
All right, moving from Duke to Tuckerfest.
Yeah.
An RV trip to Cleveland and Jersey.
Yeah, this came about because he and his friends were bored after finishing school, felt restless, and his message board fans actually organized this Halloween event, Tuckerfest.
So they rent an RV.
Yeah.
And chaos ensues immediately, I take it.
Pretty much from the word go. He calls getting insurance the best decision, points out the full keg, and asks, do you really think this is going to end well?
Spills map snatching.
Yep. Study spills beer everywhere. Sippy grabs the map, yells he's the fucking Prince of Cleveland, and yeah, they drive over traffic cones. Standard stuff, apparently.
They picked up friends along the way.
Tried to. They stormed a frat house but got shushed by sober nerds. Two guys, Tweedledoofus and Tweedledork, joined briefly but left pretty quickly, saying, this wasn't what we expected.
Didn't sound like they fit the vibe and the actual Tuckerfest event itself.
Seems like a bit of a letdown for him, maybe. He mostly ignored the fans, hung out with his core friends, went into the city, threw peanuts at hipsters.
Classy.
And he apparently lost a hookup because he insulted the girl's pantyhose.
Okay. And this leads to another one of those reflective moments.
Yeah, this is where he feels he sold out. Because he didn't mock the people he saw as posers at the event. He realized he actually cared what these fans thought, which felt like compromising his whole asshole persona.
That's surprisingly introspective, but it doesn't last long, does it? Because next is the NYC Halloween chaos.
No, it evaporates fast. Things escalate. Big time.
It starts with costumes.
Right. Scrubs, someone as a black Unabomber. Sling Blade has a parrot costume. They ditch their first location because the guy-girl ratio is off and head to another party.
Arriving like conquering heroes.
With booze in hand, yeah. And they run into girls dressed as a slutty nurse and a slutty Girl Scout.
Which sparks a conversation.
A really revealing one about the sexual double standard. The girls say a guy sleeping around is a legend, but if they sleep with 2 guys in a month, they're sluts.
And Sling Blade's take.
Even more extreme. He apparently says 2 guys a month is zooming well past slutty and crashing straight into whoredom. It really paints a picture of the mindset.
There are some memorable encounters that night.
Definitely. Sling Blade using his parrot, Mr. Peepers, to talk to girls. Tucker insulting a girl's face, saying it had craters, looked like the moon. Just brutal.
And then the NSA spy.
Ah, yes. His description of her is incredibly harsh. Looks like she should have hung herself, body like a nesting doll made of owl pellets. I mean...
But she ticked a box on his list, right? Fuck a spy.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And JoJo apparently pushes him, saying it's all about the story, which seems to be a huge motivator throughout the book. Get the story no matter what.
So we go through with it.
Describes it as fucking the ugliest, fattest spy on Earth. And then there's this weird side note about PWJ hooking up with a girl who had cancer, and somehow Tucker gets banned from PWJ's sister's house because of it. The connections are sometimes loose.
As the night goes on, more drinking.
Loads. Guinness, Bailey's, Jameson, and tension builds. Nils describes watching Tucker's exes, Alexa and Hotners, like seeing an assassin tracking target.
Okay, this leads into the infamous RV ride. We should probably add the book's own disclaimer here, right?
Absolutely. The source itself flags that drunk driving is incredibly dangerous, criminally dumb. It's presented as darkly funny, only because no one got seriously hurt, miraculously. But it was, quote, a very stupid decision.
Good to have that context. So what happens on the RV?
Pure chaos. This guy Rockwolf is annoying everyone, so Soylent just calmly takes his phone and chucks it out the window onto the highway.
Just like that.
Later, Soylent takes such a massive shit, he clogs the RV toilet. Nils tries to fix it, breaks the tank top. The floor ends up covered in a half an inch of alcohol, beer, broken glass, and porcelain.
And amidst this, Tucker decides to drive. Drunk.
Yep. Through Harlem. Sippy's trying to warn him, but he ignores it. Then Nils escalates things further.
Ow.
Throws a full beer bottle out the window, hits a Jeep, leaves a dent, which, unsurprisingly, leads to them being chased by angry drivers.
This sounds like a movie scene.
It gets worse. The climax is this woman, described as the angry black woman, blocking the entire street with her SUV, screaming, "You motherfuckers!"
And Tucker tries to turn the RV.
Tries to do a K-turn with this massive RV, hits multiple parked cars. His quote is, hit like 4 parked cars.
Unbelievable. So the cops get involved.
Oh, yeah. They end up at the precinct. Tucker somehow finds common ground with one cop, fat cop, over fishing and hunting, and then blames Rockwolf for the whole mess.
Oh.
The desk cop's reaction kind of sums it up. I ain't never seen any shit like this before. That's the craziest shit I ever even heard of. Nils apparently gets frustrated, makes a comment about race. It's just a mess.
How does it end?
Tucker wakes up in jail, blacked out. Friends bail him out. He gets mad and throws his phone against the wall. It's a pretty stark picture of consequences, even if they seem temporary for him.
Okay. Let's shift gears slightly to something that really defines this era for him in the book. The sexual to-do list.
Right, this looms large.
Where did it even come from? What was the origin?
He claims it started because he felt put to shame by his friends' hookup stories. You know, tales involving a Canadian female bodybuilder, a politician's daughter, a famous athlete, even a friend's mom.
So it was competitive, like keeping up with the Joneses, but way more extreme.
Exactly. He basically vowed to create this ultimate list so he'd, quote, never lose a dick measuring contest again and be the, quote, king of all men.
The goal was a huge list and an awesome collection of stories.
That was the stated goal, yeah.
And the list categories themselves are quite something.
Oh, it's extensive. Midget, amputee, twins, virgin, federal agent, MILF, GLF, Miss America contestant, Rhodes Scholar. I mean, it covers a huge range of types and situations.
Let's talk specifics. Some of the encounters tied to this list, or just his general experiences, are pretty memorable. The tattoo stories.
Right. There's the girl with "Aren't You Lucky?" tattooed right above her vagina.
Subtle.
And then the really bizarre one, the girl with "Flies and Maggots" tattooed on her. When he asks why, she just says, "I thought it was appropriate at the time."
Okay, and his reaction?
He equates it to stinking piles of excrement and fetid, rotting corpses.
Mhm.
Puts it on his mental list of things that would stop him from hooking up, alongside herpes and a bag of crap. Interestingly, he also adds emotional dysfunction to that list later.
There's also the girl Jess who gets "I fucked Tucker Max" tattooed on her hip.
Yeah, and the book touches briefly on her potential motivations, abandonment issues, family stuff. It adds this little hint of the complex reasons people might interact with him or his persona.
He also talks about what he perceives as, like, transactional sex.
Yeah, or conditioned sex. He mentions girls offering to do his laundry via MySpace. His take is that women use these white lies to deal with the cognitive dissonance of just wanting sex.
How so?
He contrasts a direct email asking for sex, which he calls whorish and unseemly, with an offer to wash his clothes, which he says works much better, will snatch it out of the sky like a falcon. It's his interpretation of the social dynamics at play.
Then there's the category of just shocking or gross experiences.
Yeah, strap in for this part. There's the poop lip story.
I almost don't want to ask.
Involves ass licking, the girl denying it happened, which leads him into this whole riff about people lying about their sexual history and him being a head doctor who can tell.
Okay, what else?
His roommate apparently projectile vomited during sex once. There's a story about finding a giant urine puddle on a mattress after a hookup. He calls it slutty collegiate incontinence and jokes, "You can see that puddle on Google Earth." And the Crunchy Girl story. They hook up, and afterwards she wants to go play frisbee golf. His reaction? "Delete my number from your phone. End of story."
Sometimes, though, the reality of the other person kind of breaks through the narrative, right?
Definitely. Like the NSA spy girl we mentioned earlier, her actual job versus his initial, very harsh judgment of her appearance.
Or the diabetic girl, Chrissy.
Right. She passes out during sex. He initially just thinks her behavior is weird, but then realizes it's her medical condition.
And his decision.
He decides to stop hooking up with her. Not out of concern for her, necessarily, but because, in his words, he didn't want her dying while impaled on my dick. It's this moment where potential real-world consequences, like serious ones, bump up against his lifestyle.
Then there's the LA girl, Alexa. Their dynamic sounds incredibly toxic.
Oh, extremely. He first hears from her via an email she sends from a funeral.
Seriously.
That's what the book says. He describes her as embodying LA stereotypes, being super manipulative, threatening to buy drugs, get raped, or die if he didn't immediately drop everything for her.
That's intense manipulation.
And destructive. They apparently threw each other's iPods during fights, yet despite all this dysfunction, he kept sleeping with her multiple times.
Their arguments sound brutal, too.
Yeah, comparing her unfavorably to his dog, making a horrible joke about abortion, her responding with a comment about vacuuming the baby out. It's just
Yeah.
a depiction of a really damaging relationship.
A really significant theme, especially after the first book came out, seems to be what he calls the virginity paradox.
Yes, this was huge. Hundreds of virgins started seeking him out specifically to lose their virginity to him.
What was his take on that?
His expectation versus the reality was quite different. He says they really, really suck in bed and felt they mostly just wanted the name recognition.
So he could tell people.
Yeah, so they could tell their judgmental friends they weren't virgins anymore. And ironically, he ended up feeling used in these situations.
There's a particularly graphic story about one of these encounters.
The farting virgin story, yeah, it's vivid. Her trying to hold it in, his reaction, her sprinting to the bathroom for what he describes as fire hosing greenish brown juice. It's presented as this moment of pure, awkward, gross reality crashing the whole encounter.
Maybe the most serious incident related to this, though, is the girl who lied about her age.
Definitely the most serious. Claims she was 19, turned out to be 14.
And his reaction.
Pure panic. He talks about screaming about strict liability crime, the real fear of prison. He says he never felt dirtier in his life, even though nothing sexual happened once he found out her real age.
And the girl's reaction after all this, after traveling an hour with a fake ID just for this.
She apparently just asked if they could go get Pinkberry. It's such a jarring contrast, the seriousness of the situation and this almost mundane, childlike request.
The book includes some perspectives from these women, too, right?
Oh.
Emails.
It does. One from a self-described good girl who saw losing her virginity to him as a self-intervention after a bad breakup. "The summer my soul was murdered," she called it. Her reasoning was, stop being so fucking safe.
And another one.
Another email from Sharon is much darker. She describes getting pregnant after losing her virginity to him while drunk, her friends telling her parents, feeling like he ruined yet another girl's life. It provides that crucial counterpoint, the potential real-world impact.
This whole thing led to the I fuck Tucker Max phenomenon.
Yeah, it became this weird sort of badge. He shares texts from girls celebrating it, my life is complete, and others regretting it. New life goal, to not fuck Tucker Max.
There's even a story about signing someone's ass.
Right. As proof, her reasoning, she'd wanted to fuck you since I was 16. It just shows how his persona became this strange cultural touchstone for a certain group.
But eventually he decides to retire the list. Why?
He writes that the novelty wore off. It started feeling more absurd than edgy or challenging. He felt the goal conquest, bragging rights, was achieved.
So what was next?
He states he wanted to move on to the next challenge, having a healthy, loving, committed relationship, which is quite a pivot after everything we just discussed.
Okay, so let's step back. We've gone through a lot of these anecdotes, this specific world presented in the book. What are the main takeaways for you thinking about this source material?
Well, it's definitely an unfiltered, often uncomfortable snapshot of a particular time, right? Early internet fame, the culture around it.
And it really highlights that gap between persona and reality.
Big time. You see it in how he initially viewed his fans, and then his surprise when they weren't what he expected, or the complexities he sometimes finds in the people he interacts with, like the virgins.
It also makes you really think about motivations. His own drive for attention, for stories, for conquest.
And why others were drawn into that orbit. Was it sex, fame by association, an ego boost, validation? Probably a mix of all those things and more.
We also see the impact of actions pretty clearly, the immediate chaos of the RV crash.
And the potential longer-term emotional fallout, like hinted at in that email from Sharon.
And those moments of self-awareness, however brief, are interesting too.
Yeah, feeling like he sold out, the genuine panic in the underage situation, deciding to cut off certain relationships because they felt too risky or draining. Even the admission, I fuck up a lot. It acknowledges flaws, even if the behavior doesn't always reflect that.
It's a chronicle of extreme behavior for sure.
But you get these glimpses of the human dynamics underneath it all, however, warped they might seem sometimes, especially in that environment of early internet celebrity.
It has definitely been a deep dive into these excerpts.
Yeah.
A very unflinching look.
Absolutely. It lays out his perspective, his experiences, as he chose to tell them.
And the book itself hints this isn't the end of the story. It teases the next book, hilarity ensues.
Right. Promising more fallout, specifically mentioning the ex-girlfriend threesome fallout. Seems like the consequences might catch up more later.
There's a line at the end of Assholes Finish First that feels pretty pointed.
Yeah. Assholes may finish first, but nothing that good comes without a price. It definitely leaves you wondering about that price.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on after all this. In a world where crafting an online persona is so easy and validation is often sought through extremes, where is the line between, say, authentic self-expression and behavior that ends up being harmful, either to yourself or others?
And what does finishing first really mean anyway? And yeah, what's that potential price tag look like?
Something to consider. That wraps up this deep dive.